This Father's Day at Lowe's, score free gifts for the greatest dad. Right now, get a free select DeWalt, Craftsman, or Cobalt tool with purchase of a select battery kit. Plus, get a free Werner 2-foot aluminum ladder when you buy an 8-foot fiberglass ladder. Shop these deals and more this Father's Day at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 6/15 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your real ID at tsa.gov/real ID. That's tsa.gov/real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
KEMPIRE is brought to you by
Washington, D.C., the KEMPIRE After Dark, the Villain Era live tour is coming to your city on August 22nd. But before that, we're coming to Philly on July 10th at City Winery. Then we're going to Atlanta on August 5th. Then we're going to Washington, D.C., and this is going to be an all-new show, all new hot topics, all new reality TV conversation, and all kinds of amazing guests and surprises. Be sure to get your tickets today, and don't forget, we're coming back to New York City on September 12th. Go get your tickets. There's also a live stream option exclusively for the New York City show. More information will be available in the description.
You're listening to KEMPIRE here on the KEMPIRE Radio Network.
Welcome back to the KEMPIRE channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. Come on in. I decided to do this update on Diddy. As you know, we've been talking about Diddy for the last 4 weeks. Yes, it's been 4 weeks that we've been talking about Diddy for the last couple of years since he was charged, now arrested, and now the trial has started. We just completed week 4 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. I just dropped day 18's recap earlier today. I dropped a few videos today, so there's a lot. There is a lot. Just when I spent the day unpacking the Diddy of it all and meditating and grounding and doing all the things, here I am. It's just a lot. And it's because Diddy's team, his defense team, has sent this letter to the judge asking for a mistrial. We'll get to that in just a second. I do want to say in regards to Buttah, I've been using their body wash. Oh, I love it. I love the scent of it. I don't know if it's doing anything for my skin, but the skin is feeling smooth. But I love the scent of it, and it makes a good lather. Anyway, get your discount, 10% off. It's available in the description. I just had to mention that because I haven't done a separate video talking about the other products that I've been trying from Buttah. Shout out to everyone already in the live chat. Be sure to share this live, guys. I know we always tell you to like, but share the live. Send it to your cousin, your friends, whoever it may not be here that you know normally would be here for our Diddy update. This is live. So, as I said before, we dropped the day 18 Diddy update earlier today. So if you missed that, be sure to check it out. We won't be rehashing everything that we've been covering because there's just so much when it comes to this Diddy trial. But I implore you, if you don't watch any of the other Diddy trial updates that we've done, go and watch. And mods, if we can post this in the live chat, if at all possible, I would like for you guys to go and watch the interview that I did with LA prosecutor Kirsten Brown. I learned so much from that conversation. She will definitely be coming back. But one of the things that she mentioned, because remember I kept on saying it feels as if they keep trying to trigger a mistrial. Well, she explained in that conversation that they're doing that for the future when it comes to, more than likely, if they end up losing this case, the defense, appealing. And those mistrial notions are things that they can utilize during that process. She explains it way better than I just did. So if we can post that, replay crew, I will post the link to that conversation in the description so that you can go. Again, it's like almost 2 hours, but every single morsel from that conversation is worth it. If you want an education in regards to what a prosecutor, but also an attorney has in regards to this. And again, not all lawyers are made the same. As this is coming from someone that has worked with thousands of attorneys. So I've seen it run the gambit from ultra professional, ultra knowledgeable to how the hell did you get your law degree? It runs the gambit, okay? But shout out to all the attorneys. I have to say the majority are very, very good. And we had one of the best, Kirsten Brown, here. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. So I want to read to you this letter that was filed this evening from Diddy's team asking the Judge Aaron Subramanian. Oh, now it's rolling off the tongue. Okay, Subramanian. I'm probably still mispronouncing. I apologize, Judge. Sidebar, I thought I saw him in the street the other day, and I was like, is that him? I don't know. But okay. So let's get into this, because you know I'm in New York City. That's why I thought maybe I saw him in the street. Okay. I was like, Judge, is that you? It's okay. All right. So let's get into this. I want to read this from, and I won't be putting all the citations and things that they have included in here. But this is what they're trying to accuse the prosecution of. They're accusing the prosecution of misconduct. And they're citing Bryana, Cassie's friend. And I told you, based off of when we recapped it, if you missed it, I'm not going to rehash Bryana's testimony. I said of all of the witnesses that they had, for me, based on my layman's opinion, that she wasn't their best. And I said some of her answers were sort of like, oh, did she just perjure herself on the stand? I'm not saying that she did, but it felt like, oh, she wasn't a great witness. And I also gave the disclaimer, she did admit to doing a lot of drugs with Cassie. So that might be part of her not recollecting some of the details. But one of the things that they mentioned was the fact that Diddy was in New York City at the time that she accuses him of dangling her over a 17-story balcony. So that is one of the things that's mentioned in this motion for a mistrial. Oh, goodness. Let's get into this because I'm not going to be here long. Let me know if you want me to drop the call and link for those that want to share their opinions, because it's been a while since we've actually dropped the call link for the audience. Matter of fact, I'm going to drop the call link for members first right now before I forget, in case there are members that want to weigh in, because we haven't heard from our members in a few weeks since we started this case. So let me drop this. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me do this right now before we get into this letter that Diddy's legal team filed on a Saturday. They're working overtime. But again, coming from the world of law, I used to work long hours. There were points in my law career, not as a lawyer, but when you work in a law firm, it's like you're a lawyer because you're working their hours too. And I would have cases that were like, oh, we need to start this case with temp attorneys come Monday. So I'm working Saturday. I'm working Sunday. I used to work to the bone. I don't miss it. I used to like my job though, because I used to do orientations. I used to meet all these attorneys. We used to have like really, can you imagine if I was still there, I'd be able to have these conversations about the Diddy of it all. Okay, calm down. I mean, I still could. I know a ton of attorneys. Okay. I'm going to drop the call link for members on the post tab. Live chat. If we, depending on the amount of people we get in here, let's get those likes up. I don't know why y'all here not liking the video, but it's all right. Share the video if you don't want to like it. Okay. All right. So Brandy says, I believe he did dangle her off the balcony. Maybe the time frame is wrong. Possible. But when you look at the fact, like, how do we know for sure that Diddy was in New York City? They say that he was checked in at a hotel. Under what? Frank White, Frank Black? How do we know? How do we know that he was there? He also has a private jet. And he knows powerful people. How do we know he was on someone else's private jet? Okay, let me get into the letter that was sent. For those that are just joining us, Diddy's legal team has been trying. He's been doing this. His legal team has been doing this since the beginning of the trial, trying to trigger a mistrial. The first time they did that was with Cassie and them wanting to bring Cassie over the weekend. But the judge and the prosecution were like, no, we need to get her off the stand before the weekend. So that was the first time that we saw that they were trying to trigger a mistrial. The prosecution at the time accused them of that. That wasn't the only time. They tried it multiple times since then. And now we have a letter Saturday night, where they are asking the judge to declare a mistrial. So in this letter, dated today, June 7th, 2025, and this is to the judge, Honorable Aaron Subramanian, United States District Judge, Southern District of New York, 500 Pearl Street. That's where it is, okay? So they say, Dear Judge Submaranian, the defense respectfully submits this letter in support of its renewed motion for a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. So they're accusing the prosecution of misconduct. They said when the introduction of perjured testimony results in a criminal conviction, so they're accusing one of the witnesses of perjuring themselves. When the introduction of perjured testimony results in a criminal conviction and the, quote, prosecution knew, they're accusing the prosecutors of knew, or should have known of the perjury, the conviction must be set aside if there is any reasonable likelihood that the false testimony could have affected the judgment of the jury. I have to read that again because it's important that we understand what they're saying here. Okay? When the introduction of perjured testimony results in a criminal conviction and the prosecution knew or should have known of the perjury, the conviction must be set aside if there is any reasonable likelihood that the false testimony could have affected the judgment of the jury. As I said to you before, this is not the first time that the defense attorneys have been trying to trigger a mistrial. They started with Cassie. There was that time in court where they said to the judge, he's about to say something, and I think we should declare a mistrial. And the judge says, but the witness didn't say it. But they're about to say it. Huh? But they're about to say it. But the judge is like, but he didn't say it. Okay. Danny, who's an attorney in the chat, says weak ground for mistrial. They're trying everything. But as I said before, Kirsten Brown, a prosecutor who came here on the channel like last week or the week before, said that they're doing that intentionally for when it comes time to appeal. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. All right, so let me skip down because they cite a few different things. They said, moreover, the prosecutors' knowing use of perjured testimony can violate the due process clause, even if it only undermines a witness's credibility. And then they have their citations here. As the Supreme Court has explained, a lie is a lie, no matter what its subject. And if it is in any way relevant to the case, the district attorney has the responsibility and duty to correct what he knows to be false and to elicit the truth. They cite more cases in regards to this. Remember, Diddy's legal team is heavy. They have so many attorneys and some of the best. He's paying up the wazoo for them as well. So as explained below, in this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false related to its allegation that Mr. Combs dangled Bryana Bongolan from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment in September of 2016. So they're basing their request for a mistrial off of her testimony. Here's the thing. As I said to you before, when we were going over her testimony, was it this week? I can't. The days are coming together for me. It was a little shaky, but it didn't seem as if she was lying. However, remember the defense attorney, I think it was Westmoreland, says, "Why did you lie to this jury?" I'm paraphrasing. She didn't say exactly like that, but basically she said to her, "Why did you lie?" And her response wasn't, "I did not lie." I forgot her exact response. I wish I had it in front of me. Her exact response wasn't, "I did not lie. Everything I've said here today is the truth." She didn't say that. Her response was a little like, that's not convincing. At least not to me. I don't know if it was convincing to the jury. So they says, as explained below, in this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false related to its allegation that Mr. Combs dangled Bryana Bongolan from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment in September of 2016. Accordingly, to avoid an unfair conviction, in this case, the court should grant a mistrial. So they're basing it off of the Bryana incident. The government contends that the alleged balcony incident is relevant because, quote, it shows Mr. Combs' violence directed not only to Miss Ventura, but to other people around Miss Ventura. She is aware of this violence, and because of her awareness, it goes to coercion. The incident, as alleged, is disturbing and powerful evidence, and the government has used it to depict Mr. Combs in an extremely negative light, as an angry and dangerous man who terrified Miss Ventura and her friends. What about Dawn Richard's testimony? Okay. Naomi says, I hope she didn't hallucinate. I mean, that's the other element, and that's part of the reason why the defense kept on bringing up the amount of drugs that both her and Cassie were doing at the time. The prosecutors elicited, this letter from Diddy's defense team, the prosecutors elicited evidence about this allegation from both Miss Ventura and Miss Bongolan that is demonstrably false in key respects, it says. They then doubled down using this false testimony to obtain a ruling admitting inadmissible hearsay evidence about it as well, all to present a false narrative to the jury. The government started by eliciting testimony from Miss Ventura about the allegation that cannot be true. Miss Ventura said she actually saw Mr. Combs holding Miss Bongolan over the balcony railings. Okay? And then they cite this. They says, I saw him bring her back over the railing of the balcony and then throw her onto the patio furniture. Yet, that was a quote from Cassie's testimony, yet the prosecutors knew she had not actually seen what she described because they had in their possession a text conversation demonstrating that Miss Ventura was told about the alleged incident by another unidentified person. Remember, the prosecution this week brought in a investigator that was able to find these text messages to confirm. Okay. So let me just find myself back because there's a lot of details here. Let me just make sure I find myself back to where they were saying. So yet the prosecutors knew she had not actually seen what she described because they had in their possession a text conversation demonstrating that Miss Ventura was told about the alleged incident by another unidentified person. Then they cite this. They said in a quote, hey, I just found out some crazy-ish. I'm changing the word. I'm just finding out right now. That was the text message. Nonetheless, they allowed Miss Ventura to continue to insist on cross she had witnessed the incident. Okay? In the question, and you testified that you saw him throw her onto the patio furniture, right? Answer, yep. He brought her back over the balcony and he threw her down. She persisted in this story even after she was confronted by the text messages. Isn't it true? Question. Isn't it true that you learned about the incident on the balcony after the fact? Answer. I saw what I saw, so I don't know. Question. Has the government in your preparation for your testimony in this case gone over this message with you? Cassie's answer. No, not this one. No. Thus, the government left the jury with the false impression that Miss Ventura saw Mr. Combs dangle her friend over the balcony and that this made her fearful of him, when in fact, if there was any incident, Ventura merely heard about it afterwards, considerably lessening any probative value as to her state of mind. I'm trying to understand what really played out that day. So he got into the apartment. So Cassie did not follow him. She was somewhere else. We also learned that at the time, Bryana's girlfriend, she had told her girlfriend to go into the bathroom and she was like, shh, that was her testimony. So Diddy went for Bryana on the balcony. There's something about that story that's not adding up on either side. I still think that Diddy's a horrible, terrible person, and I wouldn't be surprised that he did do what she said. But I feel like there's something missing in regards to the details of that story that's not adding up on either side. Am I wrong? Because I'm not getting, and mind you, I've read what Inner City Press gave as a transcript. I've seen the actual transcript, and I've seen different reports on this, and I'm still like, okay, I'm not understanding, and I get it. Everybody involved was on drugs, including Diddy. Everyone involved. So here we are. Let me continue. So, thus the government left the jury with the false impression that Miss Ventura saw Mr. Combs dangle her friend over the balcony and that this made her fearful of him, when in fact, if there was any incident, Ventura merely heard about it afterwards, considerably lessening her probative value as to her state of mind. So, next, the government doubled down by presenting perjured testimony from Bongolan intended to corroborate Ventura's false testimony. Bongolan claimed that Combs lifted her up and held her feet on the balcony railing. Hold on. Let me see if I can demonstrate. So he lifted her up. Let me read this again. Bongolan claimed that Combs lifted her up and held her feet on the balcony railing. Wait, lift. Mind you, she said she was doing a lot of drugs at the time, and she was only about 115 pounds. So lifted her up, and then, okay, but they get into the sizes of the balcony and things like that as well. So she claimed that, Bongolan claimed that Combs lifted her up and held her feet on the balcony railing. And that this caused injuries to, quote, the back of my leg and back and neck pain. Bongolan was very definitive about these injuries, and particularly the bruise to her leg, which was one of the details that stick out in her mind. Okay. Let's continue. So they have the Q&A from her testimony. Where did you go after you left Cassie's apartment? Bongolan says, I went to my apartment. What did you do at your apartment? She says, I was shaking a lot, and then I wanted to take a shower because I felt disgusted. And then I look over my behind my leg and I see a huge bruise. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm not a doctor. I'm also not a scientist. Does bruising show up that quickly? Hold on. What is the timeline of this? Because I can't remember from when we covered this. They said, where did you go after you left Cassie's apartment? Did she leave Cassie's apartment a week later? When I went to my apartment, what do you do at your apartment? I was shaking a lot, and then I wanted to take a shower because I felt disgusted. And then I look over behind my leg, and I see a huge bruise. How long does a bruise take before it shows up? Just asking. LaTanya says she didn't take any pics. I don't know. I don't know if that's the first thing that comes to someone's mind, especially if you're doing drugs. Okay, Susie says, yes, it can. Okay, Naomi says some people bruise easily. I'm just asking, being very innocent in my asking. I just want to make sure we make it clear. LaTanya says, I bruise easily. So LaTanya, if, God forbid, you hurt your leg today, a bruise will show up almost immediately? I just want to ask. Okay, it's very possible. Naomi says, I bruise instantly on my legs. Okay, I just want to clarify so that we all, because I know already there will be people that ask the same question that I just asked. So she says that in her testimony, she says, I wanted to take a shower because I felt disgusted. And then I look over behind my leg and I see a huge bruise. We'll talk about the bruise in just a moment. Miss Bongolan, do you remember all the details of the incident that night? She says, no. Do the details that you've talked about stick out in your mind? She says, yes. What, if any, physical injuries did you have as a result of that night? She says, I had that big bruise with it was like a piercing in the middle of it. And then I had back and neck pain, and then it stops there. They continue in their letter. For those that are just joining us, we're talking about Diddy's defense team has sent a letter tonight to the judge asking to declare a mistrial, accusing the prosecution of knowingly allowing misinformation, lies, perjury to happen in this case. The government next introduced photographs of the injuries Ms. Bongolan supposedly sustained at the hands of Mr. Combs, including, then they cite the number for it, a photo depicting the leg injury taken on September 26, 2016 at 9:45 a.m. So she did take a picture of it. Ms. Bongolan testified that she took the photos of her leg injury, quote, around the time. indicating in the exhibit that she did not, quote, that she did so, quote, the same day as the incident, and that she, quote, got that injury from being thrown onto the balcony furniture. On cross, she confirmed that the, quote, balcony incident happened early in the morning and that the photo of the leg bruise was taken later that day, and that the injuries to her back and her leg, quote, happened on the same day. The government then introduced photographs of the injuries supposedly sustained at the hands of Mr. Combs during the incident. The government knew or should have known this testimony was perjured. This is their letter. They're saying that the government knew or should have known that the testimony was perjured and that Ms. Bongolan could not possibly have been injured by Mr. Combs on a Los Angeles balcony in the early morning hours of September 26, or even the day before that. The government has long known that Mr. Combs was on the East Coast in late September, and specifically at around the time of this alleged incident. The government knew that he had stayed at the Trump Hotel in New York City between September 24th and 29th, 2016. In fact, the government had marked GX7Y111, the records of this hotel stay, which are now in evidence. And it has had other evidence in its possession for some time showing Mr. Combs' travel schedule and proving that he was on the East Coast when told that the jury he dangled Ms. Bongolan over a balcony in front of Ms. Ventura. Could it have happened on the 23rd and she messed up the date? Because let me tell you this. Because if you were to ask me about an incident that happened, I can't promise you, especially if I was doing the amount of drugs that Bongolan claims that she was doing at the time with Cassie, I could see messing up dates. But I could also see Diddy being in New York City on the 24th to the 29th. How are we confirming that? How are we confirming that? Let me continue. So they continue. Some of this information is redacted. I'm not sure exactly why it's redacted. I'm sure it's to protect certain things. They continue in their letter asking for this mistrial. Guys, if you're just joining us, don't forget to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting the channel. We're talking about Diddy's attorney sending a letter to the judge this evening. They didn't do this on Friday. They didn't wait till Monday. This happens all the time. They sent a letter asking the judge for a mistrial. But before we continue, again, I'm going to remind you guys to like the video. And also, don't forget the KEMPIRE After Dark live show. There we go. Oh, let me bring this up. Don't forget the KEMPIRE After Dark live show is coming to Philly. We're coming to Philly on July 10th, City Winery there. Then we'll be in Atlanta on August 5th. Then we'll be in Washington, D.C. on August 22nd. And then back here in New York City on September 12th. All shows have meet and greets available, but the New York City show has a live stream option available. So even if you're not coming to any of the shows, or you live in another city or another state or another country, there is a live stream option that you can have for a week. So go get your tickets today. More information on the KEMPIRE After Dark, the villain era, is now available in the description. We're going to talk about Diddy, I'm sure, at least in the Philly show. We will definitely have to talk about Diddy and the results of this case by then. Maybe. We don't know. The judge is definitely trying to have the jury start deliberating, as long as he doesn't approve this mistrial motion, but we shall see. He's trying to have this done by July 4th, but they could be deliberating for who knows how long. Okay. All right. MO says hotel and personal appearance. I mean, I wonder if they can verify that maybe he had an appearance on that day and we saw him, or he was seen by someone. Saying that he was staying at a hotel where he used aliases is not enough for me. Okay, Jasmine says, see you in September. See you in September, Jasmine. All right, let's continue. What's more, they continue in their letter asking for this mistrial from the judge to Diddy's defense team. What's more, when the defense began to expose the perjury on cross-examination, the government repeatedly attempted to disrupt the cross with unfounded objections and requests for sidebars and unfounded claims, such as the proper leading questions meant defense counsel was, quote, testifying. Then, despite having elicited Ventura's false testimony about having directly witnessed the alleged incident, the government persuaded the court to admit the hearsay text messages with Quorum, KK, describing what Ventura had found out from someone else, despite having elicited perjurious testimony from Ventura claiming she saw the alleged conduct. All of this was highly improper and exacerbated the harm caused by this suborning the perjured testimony. It bears emphasis that the use of the perjured testimony regarding the balcony incident is just one example of prosecutorial misconduct during this trial. This is reminding me of what Kirsten said, that they're trying to have these elements of a mistrial so that they can later, if he is convicted, use those for grounds for an appeal. All right. It bears to emphasis that the use of the perjured testimony regarding the balcony incident is just one example of prosecutorial misconduct during this trial. The defense previously moved for a mistrial based on the improper line of questioning related to the 2012 destruction of fingerprints provided by Scott Muscuddy, a.k.a. Kid Cudi. So remember, they've been trying to trigger a mistrial a couple of times. This is one of those incidents. Remember what I was mentioning earlier, and I mentioned in our recaps, that before he even said anything, they were about to say, Your Honor, they did a sidebar with the judge, and they were like, we would like to declare a mistrial. And he was, for what? Because he's about to say something. He's like, but he hasn't said it. But he's about to say it. He didn't. Okay. So they said that questioning related to the 2012 destruction of fingerprints provided by Scott Muscuddy to the LAPD. As the court will recall, the defense argued that the government's motive in eliciting this testimony was to create an unfounded and highly prejudicial inference that Mr. Combs somehow corruptly arranged for the destruction of the fingerprints. The government claimed that was not the purpose of its question, and the court denied the motion, the judge, and instead gave a narrow, limiting instruction. I know the judge is probably reading this like, are you trying to read me or tell me what I did was wrong in the court? However, it became apparent shortly thereafter during the questioning of Mia, remember, one of the other victims, victim 4, right? Who was an assistant for Diddy. They said it became apparent shortly thereafter during the questioning of Mia the very next day. And they put that in italics. I was like, oh. That, in fact, the government's motive all along must have been to suggest that Mr. Combs had corrupt influence over the LA authorities when it tried to create the impression. Oh, hold on, y'all. Wait a minute. This is a bit of a reach. This part that they're about to mention when it comes to Diddy's, and look, people have rumored for years that Diddy has sources within the LAPD, NYPD. There have been rumors for that for years. Remember, in covering this case, when Capricorn Clark testified, it was actually one of the other assistants that testified that talked about taking a lie detector test, and that Diddy had a close ex-friend that was a FBI agent. Okay. They said apparently shortly thereafter, during the questioning of Mia, the very next day, that in fact the government's motive all along must have been to suggest that Mr. Combs had corrupt influence over the LA authorities when it tried to create the impression that he was responsible for the destruction of fingerprints. Conspiracy theory, they've said that as well in regards to Kim Porter's passing and the coroner's report. That's speculation. I'm not saying that it's fact, but I just want to put that out there for those that were thinking of it, because that's what I was thinking. So he had corrupt influence over the LA authorities when it tried to create the impression that he was responsible for the destruction of the fingerprints. Specifically, the government elicited testimony from Mia about 2 incidents in which the LAPD did not issue a ticket for speeding after she was pulled over because the officers found out she worked for Mr. Combs. Okay. In one case, Mia got pulled over speeding and name dropped that her boss was Mr. Combs and got him on the phone. After which the officer was like saying, "Oh my God, Puff Daddy, I love you." Like just went into this whole very excited conversation, and she let me go, is what Mia said during testimony. Honestly, I didn't take that. the fact that even came up, maybe that's what the prosecutors were trying to do. I don't know. But I didn't get that impression when I read that in the testimony. I was just sort of like, okay. But maybe that was what they were trying to do. I don't feel like that proved anything. There are plenty of police officers, if they see a celebrity that they love, that will let you go. Okay? They continue. They said the second time Combs was in the car, and once they saw Puff, they were like, oh, my bad, yeah, and left us alone. The prosecutor took special care to emphasize that these incidents occurred in Los Angeles. What city this is the question from the testimony. What city did these interactions with the police occur in? Answer, LA. These incidents in isolation seems like benign examples of police giving lenient treatment to popular famous people. Coupled with the sinister implications of the fingerprint destruction, however, they create a strong implication that the reason Mia, and as the government will surely argue, other alleged victims, didn't go to the police was because of Mr. Combs' corrupt influence over the police and the LAPD in particular. In other words, the subsequent questioning of Mia, even if itself permissible, further corroborates that the government's real purpose in its questioning of the fire inspector, Lance Jimenez, was to improperly suggest that Mr. Combs corruptly caused the destruction of the fingerprints. This constitutes another instance of prosecutorial misconduct. Accordingly, the court should grant a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. Respectfully submitted by Alexandra Shapiro, Jason Driscoll, Mark Agnafilo, Anna Estavio, Brian Steele, Xavier Donaldson, and Nicole Westmoreland. All of his attorneys that are representing Sean Diddy Combs. Y'all, I had to go live. I literally was going to record this video, edit it, but I've been doing that all week. I said, let me just go live. But also, I wanted to give an opportunity for those of you that haven't had an opportunity in the last couple of weeks, because we haven't gone live, to talk about the Sean Diddy Combs case. But now we're done with week 4. We're going into week 5. I see we already have a couple of members that are backstage that want to share their thoughts. If you are a member of the channel, you have access to the call-in link. Live chat, let's get to 700 likes, and I will drop the call-in link for you guys as well. Keep liking the video. Shout out to our King's Guards holding us down. Shout out to our channel members. Become a member today at teamkempire.com/join. I will be uploading the audio from today's live to the Kempire podcast. Subscribe to the podcast as well. I dropped a lot of tea in regards to Bravo for Club Kempire. There's a free 3-day trial for that. So if you want to hear some of that tea, go become a member. All right. Shout out to our members over there. All right, let me get to some quick callers because I don't want to be here live. I really even should be live on 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday. I should be out dipping it. No, it's been rainy and weird weather all day. All right, Cynthia's backstage. Again, I just want to point out the opinions of the callers do not represent the opinions of myself, the Kempire LLC, or our sponsors, and everything that they say is alleged. Okay? All right, let's bring Cynthia up first. Cynthia, what did you want to share?
Hi, Kempire. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, Kempire. Kempire, I really appreciate you covering the Diddy trial. It's a lot of gross stuff. I haven't really been following it. It's really, really dark.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, Kempire. I'm an RN. Mm-hmm. My only question is, what was I going to say, Kempire? In terms of the mistrial, will everybody be called back to testify again?
I'm assuming if he was to grant a mistrial, they would have to do it all over again.
They're gonna rip Cassie to shreds. She's not pregnant no more.
Oh, damn.
No,
I know, but I know what you mean. I hope not. I think a lot of attorneys already, based on what I've seen already in regards to this news, are saying, I don't think he's going to grant a mistrial. You already saw that they've been trying to trigger a mistrial for a while now. Again, we'll bring more attorneys on the channel to weigh in on some of what's been playing out in this case. I don't know if, based on what they're saying, is enough to grant a mistrial.
I know I've been following TMZ, and I know that Mark Garrico's daughter is a lawyer for Diddy.
Yep.
And I know the judge kind of he kind of scolded him.
Yes.
He was with the two angry men with Harvey at TMZ. Yeah, I don't think he's going to grant a mistrial. I don't think so.
Yeah. As an RN, since you're an expert, and I just want to verify, because I was asking about bruising, and I said,
I heard of you.
Yeah. Can you verify for me, can bruising happen within hours?
It can happen within hours. I mean, I bruise easily.
Okay.
And bruising, it could you can bruise if you're taking like a blood thinner. Okay. Certain medications can make you bruise easily.
Okay.
If you're an easy bruiser, you can bruise easily. Your complexion, skin conditions.
Okay.
It all depends.
Okay.
It all depends.
I just wanted to verify.
Yeah, because I did hear you pose that question, but yeah, it really, really all depends. But yeah, this trial is really tricky, KEMPIRE. Really, really tricky. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look, it feels as if, I don't know if you saw the updates that we did on Cassie's friend's testimony. I do feel like her testimony was shaky. And one of the things that we also talked about this week was that one of the jurors, while watching her testimony, was making all kinds of faces. I don't know if it landed with the jury, but I don't think that was necessarily the prosecution's star witness, but it was an important witness.
Yeah, but her stories was inconsistent, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And her responses to Diddy's defense team were not, at least not strong in regards to like, no, that's not what it was. So
I agree.
But again, I don't know if that's going to be enough for the judge to say, I'm going to grant a mistrial.
I agree with too. Even Dawn Richard, I don't even know why she even testified. What was the point of her being on the witness stand?
Damn, not Dawn catching strays.
I mean, honestly,
I'll tell you the reason why they wanted Dawn to testify, because she confirmed some of the abuses that Cassie went through and that she witnessed herself. So they wanted to sort of corroborate the abuse that Cassie endured. Okay. I'm just trying. I'm trying to just give you an update.
KEMPIRE, you're doing an excellent. Because you know what, this trial is it's a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a toxic mess.
It's a mess in the court, and it's a mess outside the court.
Exactly. Like, the judge was trying to ban Diddy from being in court for making gestures at the jury.
Yeah. And apparently he's been making gestures since the beginning of the trial. Journalists were noting like, yeah, he's been interacting with the jury since the beginning.
I think he was advised to do that, KEMPIRE.
Or this is just what he's used to doing.
That too. No, this is just a mess. I guess to be continued, KEMPIRE. I'll keep watching. We'll talk about Real Housewives on Monday.
Yes. Stay tuned.
KEMPIRE, I really appreciate you covering this story.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, KEMPIRE.
Have a great evening.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Bye. Bye-bye. All right. I'm only giving members free access to talk. Everyone else that I just dropped the call link for, you will have 30 seconds. Okay. Only members will get full access. All right. So let me bring up Miss Tina. Hey, Miss Tina, how are you?
Hey, KEMPIRE, long time no hear from.
Was I supposed to call you? I don't have your number.
You are. Hey, I love this judge. I don't think that he's going to grant a mistrial because the defense's arguments, you're supposed to discredit the witness when they're on the stand, not come back 2 weeks from when they testify and say, oh, they perjured themselves. That's a bunch of crap. I don't think he's going to do it. And yes, you can bruise. You've met me and you see how dark complected I am. I was going to the police academy and I shot a shotgun and I didn't have it wedged in my shoulder. I turned as black as a piece of charcoal within seconds.
Ooh.
They thought I broke my shoulder because it recoiled. So yes, you can bruise that fast. Because I said I didn't think I could bruise because I'm dark. I mean, it was bad.
And now that you say that, because I went for a facial and I was trying something new, and it's one of those little suction things they did. I didn't bruise, but I immediately had red lines because of it. So that makes sense. That's
pulling your blood vessels up to the surface, and be careful with that because I'm an esthetician too. Yeah, see? Be careful with that because
never again. I'm not doing it again.
Because you can bruise your face, and it'll take a long time for that veins to contract, your blood vessels to get back.
I was
to normal.
icing in there. Okay, this is not about me. I'm sorry.
It is. But anyway, and just hearing some of this testimony about Diddy, as my grandfather would say, he had them girls and himself as high as a Cooter Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't know if what they're charging him with, if they'll get to the racketeering and all that stuff. The boy was just a big freak.
Abusive.
Yeah, very abusive. And we had a young lady here today at a program with Satoya Brown. She killed her trafficker, I think maybe 10 years ago, and the governor commuted her sentence. She was 16.
Oh.
Her trafficker was 45. She's a young black girl. He's an older white gentleman. They gave her life. She did 15 years, and they commuted her sentence. And she came and spoke to audience of mainly all women and young girls about how easy it is to get sucked up into, the craziness of sex trafficking and thinking someone loves you.
Yeah.
And I heard I was listening to the testimony of the young lady that she kept saying, well, he loved me and I was doing it for him. I'm going like, where are her parents? Where are her friends? I mean, you keep letting them 3 or 4 guys run through you and then he throws you a bone and he's your boyfriend?
Well, I mean, again, let's take her out of the situation. I'm sure.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams 4-day super sale and get 40% off paints and stains June 6th through the 9th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
So you've heard of many women getting into situations very similar with people that don't have as much coin or power or influence as Diddy. And they have family and friends. They're like, girl, you need to get out of this relationship. And they don't.
Crazy. But I don't know if they're going to get him on the racketeering and all that other kind of stuff. But it's just sad. It's just horrific.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy. But I don't think they're gonna do a mistrial. I think they're just building up their case for an appeal. And maybe they'll do that. But I laugh at the graphic that they have with him with the red devil eyes.
Oh, that was my graphic. All right.
I'm going to try to come to Atlanta. I'm going to try to come.
Okay.
And if I don't, I think I might even fly out to either New York or DC.
Okay. Well, I'll see you at one of the shows. Thank you, Ms. Tina, for calling in.
I need a trip. All right. See you later and get some sleep.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Let me continue. Again, I am planning to bring on a specialist to talk about cycles of abuse. I feel like so many people are on their high horse when it comes to, these girls, they just wanted attention. Oh, why she loved this man. If you really are paying attention to the story or the stories and you're hearing the cycle, like this man he's probably made it an art. Mind you, some of y'all are sitting on your high horse and you're allowing someone that's broke and with less influence and manipulation skills to manipulate you. Not y'all. I'm not talking. Well, maybe y'all too. And I feel like people do not give anyone grace because I feel like there are so many people that I see on social media that are in these situations. This is not brand new. And then when you add the element of he's getting these people hooked on drugs, and I'm like, y'all don't see how all of that plays into the manipulation and the control? But all right. This is why I bring the experts on, because I can only speak from my opinion. I am not an expert in cycles of abuse, but I will bring the expert on, okay? Because it's time that we educate our audience. And that's why I brought on Kirsten Brown to talk, because she's an attorney that has dealt with very similar crimes. She's able to understand why people stay and why they stay in those situations. We talked about that in our conversation as well. All right, Coco Esquire's backstage. Coco, what's your thoughts?
Hey, KEMPIRE. Yes, I had a whole nother thing I was going to say till that last caller started talking this craziness about they're so crazy. I mean, these girls are so stupid. First of all, I want to preface this by saying I serve on the board of a DV organization here in the Bay Area, have done work with DV victims my entire life because I grew up in a household where that was the thing. And we need to really consider why it is we expect so much high survivor and fight skills from women, and we just overlook the way that women are treated by men in power. This is an issue that has been going on since the beginning of time. And it concerns me that last caller, she seemed to indicate she had been to police academy, if I'm correct. Like, we need to place the blame where it goes. It's not why did she stay, it's why is he manipulating people? Why does he hit? And the cycle of violence and the power wheel is something that has been studied. And I suggest folks get on the internet and take a look at it. You can't even get away from your boyfriend who worked down to Family Dollar, and you expect a millionaire to not claw into an impressionable 19-year-old who was grown, but still her frontal lobe isn't developed. So that really irritated me.
And then you're giving them all these drugs that's messing with your brain.
He knew exactly what he was doing. And that's why he has to keep going back to people that are persuaded by trinkets. This is a phenomenon that not only multimillionaires utilize, but people utilize in general. And I'm pretty sure that the Department of Justice statistic will support that while it can happen irrespective of gender, women are the primary victim of this thing. And that's not something that I'm telling you because I made it up. It's on the internet. Go look at it up. But that's not what I was going to say. Anyway, I just got a little triggered.
I know. It's okay.
What I wanted to say is the defense is playing a very interesting game. And it is very difficult to have a client who is a narcissist. And I think we can all agree that Diddy's behavior is indicative of somebody who's an egomaniac. And certainly he has the money to say, you better say this to his attorneys. And thus the timing of them bringing this recent prosecutorial misconduct motion is interesting. As yesterday, the news was all about Diddy being kicked out of court because of his treatment of the jurors. The goal is it's a credibility game for sure. And as one of the callers pointed out, first of all, this is for them. Credibility is established by the testimony. If they perjured themselves, you brought that out on cross-examination. And the jury will be educated and they'll make the final determination. But the motion is premature because there has been no conviction. So what are we even talking about? This is all about if perjured testimony results in a conviction and they knew or should have known that the testimony would result in perjury. But there has been no conviction. So as a matter of form, the judge is going to deny it because he's going to say, as he said in other instances, like last week, when they were like, well, yeah, we object to this testimony. He's going to testify to XYZ. And judge was like, but he has not testified to that. So what are we even talking about? Like, y'all, wait. But what they're trying to do, as Kristen, the attorney, pointed out, is just raise these issues to preserve them for appeal, where they will elucidate upon the problem, but they're also kind of trying to play this fight out for their narcissistic client who's probably demanding, you better do this, you better do this. They said this, you better fight back. Because I'm sure that's what Diddy is expecting the lawyers to do. They're also probably victims of his abuse, quite frankly.
Oh, damn.
Quite frankly.
Because he's so used to controlling and manipulating people.
Correct.
He's probably doing that at MDC. He's probably doing that at MDC. He's probably controlling and manipulating people. That behavior doesn't stop.
It does not stop. And that's probably why you may recall a few months ago, there was an attorney who was no longer going to work with Diddy. He probably was like, I'm no longer tolerating this abuse. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know? But KEMPIRE, you are doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Just like, your job is so amazing. I'm accepting everything you say as fact. If I were the judge, I'd be like, yep, that makes that makes sense. That makes sense. This, he right. You know, he right. And I'm an attorney who's done this type of work.
And I appreciate that. I respect it.
You're doing an amazing job. So thank you for taking this over for all of us. Okay.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Coco. Please call back in when we do. I'm going to do more lives because I do want to hear what everyone is thinking, but I'm just not doing it daily.
Yeah. No, thanks for doing. I just so happened to be in the car listening to you when I got the notification. But I mean, God bless you, because I know this is overwhelming.
Ooh.
I haven't even watched Real Housewives, child, because this is all the drama I need.
Right?
In my life.
Oh my gosh.
This is too much.
It's a lot, and we still got a couple more than a couple more weeks.
Yeah, we do. But
yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Coco. Take care.
You too.
Bye. All right. Shout out to all our members. We appreciate them. We have a few more members that we're going to bring up, and then we have some of the callers that dropped in from the live chat. Keep liking the video, guys. It's an easy and free way of supporting not just my channel, but other channels as well. Shout out to the replay crew. We apologize. This was the last minute. This was breaking news that Diddy's attorneys have sent a letter to the judge wanting him to grant a mistrial on the basis that the prosecution knowingly or should have known that there were elements from Bryana's testimony and Mia's testimony that they knew were false. This is what they're saying. All right, Judgy Justice is backstage. Judgy Justice, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on this is I think a lot of people just are focusing too much on the relationships that he had with these victims and not on the fact that he was in charge of their lives through the enterprise of Bad Boy, which is the focus of the RICO charges. Because if he did not have Bad Boy, he would not have the 3 locations, New York, LA, Miami, to then transport these victims. He wouldn't be able to have the assets to be able to conceal his crimes of this matter. So I think that's the part of it. You can say that he is, they were all freaky doing these different things, but at the end of the day, he had so much power over their lives that you cannot call these people girlfriends. They are only, workers that he was then utilizing for his own fetishes, and then utilizing money from Bad Boy to then keep control over their lives, using the security officers or police officers that were enlisted for Bad Boy for private things to then follow people, to then enact these things of violence. It wasn't. This was Combs's friend that was doing this to them. These were employees of Bad Boy that were then continuing to allow his, evil enterprise to continue in this way. And I think that's the main point that I think the prosecutors have not been able to really deviate. They keep trying to personalize these women when instead that they were employees. Cassie was an employee who was manipulated into a relationship with her boss in a place that she had no power in. And a 10-year deal, a 10 album deal over her career that she couldn't. Her parents couldn't even afford $20,000 and get her tape. Yeah. I think that's the elements that we're missing. We're focused on all these different. It's 3 people, 7 people flying here. No, it's the fact of they had this type of power. Even Jane and Mia being paid $10,000 a month and being called at their whim and told they better do this or they will not get their money this month. They will not get this. Their rent's not going to get paid by who? Who was the one that was putting those money in the accounts? Bad Boy. So I think that's the place that we have to focus on from that and get away from these very disgusting abuse of power. And then we can then refocus on the bigger side, like that this was an evil enterprise. And this was really Bad Boys for life. All right. I got to go. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in. All right. Let me just see, because I saw a comment here. Let me see. Jucia, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jucia Williams says, my ex, who went to prison for 3 years for abuse, manipulated several women for a long time. The detectives on his case said that even though he was not attractive, he was frightening, charismatic with them. This is why, I think it's because people probably don't, being in this job, a lot of times I learn, like today, I learned about bruising, okay? I learn a lot from a lot of you in covering some of these cases. So I haven't been in an abusive relationship, but I've seen abusive relationships. I've covered a lot of abusive relationships. I read, I study. So there are elements. But again, I'm going to do my part and use my platform by educating you guys, by bringing on some experts. Tim D, thank you so much for the super chat. And for your, I'm sure Diddy's probably paying you for this super chat, but okay. You could have came a little harder with something actual of substance. I think people that come out and just say free Diddy just say it because they have nothing. They don't have anything of substance to say, well, this is what it is. Because we can have a conversation on the prosecution is not proving their case because you saw what Judge Justice just did. You could have done that, but you decided just to come here with your ignorance and say free Diddy. But at least you put it in a super chat. I wish I could refund it because I don't need your money. All right, Keith is backstage. We're going to bring Keith up next. Keith, what's going on? Thank you so much for being a member.
Hey, KEMPIRE, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. But yeah, so I was calling because, first of all, I wanted to say if I was the prosecutor, I would have definitely been screaming hostile witness when Mia got on that stand because I felt like she was a waste of time. She came there, wasted the judge's time. She wasted the jury's time with a bunch of I don't knows and ambiguous yes and no's. I felt like she really was a waste of time, and they could have.
Mia or Bryana are you talking about?
I'm not sure. The hippie chick.
Oh, Bryana, the hippie chick. Yeah. Bryana, the one that was dangled over the balcony.
Correct. Yes,
okay,
her, the one that was doing a lot of drugs with Cassie.
With Cassie, yeah, that was Bryana.
My apologies, Mia, not you. I'm talking about Bryana. But yeah, so I definitely think she was a waste of time, and they could have found someone a little bit more credible to be their star. Well, she probably not even the star witness, but to be a witness for their side. However, I also wanted to say that I feel like a lot of people are having. First of all, I do want to say I really appreciate you being able to really explain and elucidate what's going on with this case and really be able to bring it down to layman terms for people that don't understand courtroom jargon and being able to really explain it thoroughly. I really appreciate that because I feel like with this case, a lot of people are, the thing we're also coming off of the back of the whole Young Thug Rico trafficking case. And I feel like with that case, it was pretty cut and dry on what the charges were and exactly what they were being charged with as far as running a criminal enterprise and being a gang and actually infiltrating crimes and committing murders and it being pretty obvious on what the crimes are. Yeah. But I feel like with this whole Diddy case, a lot of people aren't in the nuance of understanding how sex trafficking or like that type of field can be considered RICO or racketeering, because what I'm getting with this whole Diddy case is that they're bringing up the fact that he would pay these workers to be able to fly out to other states or other countries to be able to do their business with his girlfriends. And they're not realizing that, one, this is actually illegal. Like, this actually, I mean, like, I'm not, how would I say it? Like, Constitution. I'm not trying to get you demonetized or anything. So Constitution is illegal. And the three charges, to my knowledge, is that he's being charged with traveling or transporting with the intention of prostitution, ex-trafficking, as well as racketeering.
Yep.
Ex-trafficking and being able to travel people out in the with the idea of wanting to do prostitution is all following under the whole racketeering case. So I want to know if they are using this as a way to build up on that case. And I feel like a lot of people aren't understanding that this is a X case. This isn't a murder case. They're not trying to prove that Diddy went and murdered someone in a club.
Okay, let's not use the word
oh, yeah. He did something to someone, you know. So I feel like people aren't really understanding that concept. So a lot of people are trying to understand and trying to compare the two cases because we're just coming off the back of that, and being able to really understand the whole Diddy case, I think takes a different type of understanding on how that industry works and why it's illegal and what he's doing. But that was about it. And also, like, with his whole manipulation tactics, my thing is, okay, so I may anger a few people. This may be a hot topic. Okay, I'm not trying to be a contrarian like many other people. However, what I will say is everything that happened after the whole Cassie incident was revealed was on those women. I'm sorry, but I'm like, after that, because at that point, I feel like everything was already out in the open to where I feel like they should have been a little bit more aware on what is happening.
When you say out in the open, Cassie's lawsuit didn't come out until November of 2023.
Exactly. And wasn't the current witness
Jane
still with him until 2024?
Yeah, but remember, she was already in this cycle of abuse. She was already, quote, in love with him.
Exactly. So her, I understand, and she was already involved in this scenario, so it was a little bit harder for her to get out.
But also understand this too. If again, we can and I'm going to bring a specialist on here to talk about this. Please understand, if Diddy gets out tomorrow, there will be another person that would be more than willing to get to date him, just because these personalities are charismatic. They suck you in. And then based off what we're seeing from Jane's testimony, the way he uses and manipulates, we could dog out the characters of these women and like, oh, that could never be me, until it is. But based on what I'm seeing, not only is he manipulating through money and the things that he says and playing these games, he's also utilizing drugs as a way to controlling them.
Correct.
Also, sleep deprivation and how that affects the body and the mind. Like, he's doing all these things, and they don't realize that not only is he manipulating with their words, he's manipulating through the drugs and the sleep deprivation. And his tactics. And he's become an expert at doing this because he's been doing it for probably 20, 30 plus years.
That is very true. That's very true, now that you bring it up. Because my thing is also that with him, I feel like he, like the girls that he was currently with, even like his most recent baby mama that he had, they are, I don't want to say they're with him for the money, but they aren't as successful as him. So it's a little bit easier for him to manipulate them because he brings them in with money and then he keeps them there. So like for the most recent witness, she said that he was paying for her rent. However, she was living in New York at the time. So for her to move from LA to New York, she probably would have had to come out of pocket for a large amount. So it felt like she was kind of stuck because where was she going to go after that? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I will also say this, like, oh, welcome to, are you in New York?
No, I'm in Chicago.
Okay, I'm like, damn, big cities. Well, here's the thing. Please also understand, as we're speaking, there are men with less money, with no money, that are doing the same thing. So that it's not always just about money.
That is true.
So,
that is true.
All right, we have a line. I gotta go though. But
of course,
go hide from the police. Thanks, Keith, for calling in. All right. Now we have our general calls. General calls. You will not have free time. Okay, you will not have free time. I'm gonna bring up DM next. DM, what did you want to share?
Hi. I thought I was a member, but
you are a member. No, you are a member. You're our last call. You're our last member caller.
Okay. I was like, because I have a few things to say. Okay. I have an unfavorable opinion, but I'm going to explain why.
Please.
I hope this judge does grant a mistrial. Because as Cassie being the first witness, I think her testimony will be so much stronger because, as you know, in the first one, she wasn't granted immunity. While she was speaking on certain illegal acts that she did, she could speak to more now. And I can guarantee after her pregnancy, they're definitely going to grant her immunity and they're going to be like, speak on it so we don't get a mistrial again. And I think if they do that, it will prove RICO very early into the new trial if we get a mistrial. And specifically because she contributed to a lot of those acts. While she was a victim, she did contribute to a lot of the illegal acts he was doing. And she is such a long-standing girlfriend of his that she knows the in and outs, that they kept dismissing what she was saying. They didn't want to make her cry. And while the defense will go in on her, I think that she would be a very good witness after, her pregnancy. I think that
she's giving birth
would
now.
Prove a lot of things early on that they're kind of missing right now. Like RICO, we don't have the 2 predicate acts that they're saying for, but I think that if they gave Cassie immunity, we could prove that, and she could be a zip. And I think it's also like a weird timing where he's asking for a mistrial because I've been watching another law YouTube page, and KK has been brought up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're trying to get it done before KK comes on the stand because that's the one that's going to get it.
Because she knows where the bodies are buried.
And she could tell you where they are. And up until recently was working for it. Yeah. I don't really think that Jane testimony did a lot. I think it definitely proved S trafficking. But I think that, and again, we don't know who Jane is. I think it just proved kind of where the defense is going. He's a little freaky, and then the people he's with also do these freaky things. But
I want us as a community, and I'll just say this because you're not the only one to say this. I want us to stop saying that he was just a little freaky, because we also have to remember, no, he was abusive. We're not arguing that at all because he's admitted to being abusive. What we've seen, has he committed the charges that he's facing? Well, that's yet to be proven. However, he was an abuser. He wasn't just freaky. He was an abuser.
I think that's the reason why Jane's testimony is a little shaky, because she has yet to prove in her testimony that he was abusive. Maybe mentally, yes, but I don't think it's clear for like a jury to see the mental abuse, especially since they've only had one specialist on the stand to prove the amount of abuse you go through psychologically for your lover. So that's why, hearing her testimony, reading it, it's a little shaky for me because, yeah, he's a bad guy. Yeah, you want him to love you and all this, but we're also not getting, I think the other thing is we're not getting the background of these people. Why did they fall in the cycle of abuse? We didn't have somebody testify to why do specific women fall into this cycle of abuse? Why do they do this emotionally damaging things? And I think if they got a better witness to testify on the cycles of abuse, it would be a home run.
Okay. So you didn't like Dr. Hughes' testimony?
I liked it, but I would like for them to go deeper into even them asking what their childhood was like. I know they're trying to do a speedy trial, but that has a lot to do with it.
And why they fell into a relationship like this?
Yeah, and how many other of your, even simply asking how many other of your relationships were abusive? Asking Cassie that, were you ever in a serious relationship before Diddy?
No.
Probably not. She was 19. Was your father in the home? Those things seem that they don't matter, but they really do.
Those are important details. And like I said, I'm looking forward to having an expert here on the channel to talk about it. So at least for us, we can be educated on what that is.
Yeah, I think he does it, but I think that they'll have a much stronger case if they have to retry him.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm sure come Monday we'll have a response to their letter. For those that are just joining us, we're talking about Diddy's defense team sending a letter to the judge over his case asking for a mistrial due to Bryana's testimony and some of the things that Mia said in her testimony. DM, thank you so much for calling in. We're going to ignore this one. Thank you so much, Coco Esquire, for being a member and for the super chat. Coco says, teach KEMPIRE. Y'all need to use the right words. The testimony is cumulatively to be and establish his credibility for prior witnesses. So Thank you. I love that we have a bunch of attorneys in the chat. Shout out to all the attorneys that are here in the chat. Urena KK, I know you hear that name all the time. It's Christina Curran. She was the chief of staff for Diddy. She's been named multiple times in both civil lawsuits and during this trial. I would be shocked if she does not testify. Completely shocked. All right. So everyone else, you will have a time limit because now it's almost 10:30 New York City time. So I'm going to put a minute up for everyone. So please respect the timer so that we can get to the line that's backstage. All right. So let's bring up Michael Noel next. Michael, what did you want to share in regards to this update in regards to Diddy?
Hey, KEMPIRE. So at first I was going to make a connection and get into the Southern District of New York for not doing their due diligence in response to the testimony, and link how production didn't do their due diligence with the claims on Real Housewives. But all this talk about abuse is really kind of like hitting me hard. And I just want to share with the chat. Unless you guys have been in an abusive relationship, you don't understand. I was in one for 17 years. And even though I consider myself a very masculine man, I succumbed to the abuse of someone whose sheer will of power is more larger and stronger than my own. And even after 2 years of having escaped that relationship, to this very day, I miss my abuser and miss the life that we had. So y'all will never understand the cycles of abuse until you lived it for yourself. And I think that everybody in the chat that's making their assumptions, y'all just need to back up, because you ain't never lived that life. And that's all I wanted to share.
And be grateful that they haven't gone through something like that. So thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your story.
No problem.
Wow. Do you see? I think that was a perfect example. I'm grateful that he even was brave enough to share that with us. All right. Nelson the Virgo is backstage. Nelson, what did you want to share?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm catching a stray. Oh my God, I told me I got a minute, but let me see if I can do this.
Are you a member, Nelson?
You know that I'm a member.
I'm sorry, you called in late. Okay, after the members called in. So I'll give you your free time. Go ahead, Nelson.
Okay. I won't take too much time though. So what I wanted to say was shout out to the last caller, because that's exactly what I was going to point out. I myself have not been like a person that's been in like or something like that, but I am empathetic, and I always just try my best to like see myself in the situation. And everybody, I feel like when they're looking at just with the Cassie stuff in particular, they keep thinking that oh, that's what they wouldn't do. But it's like, you have to think like that's what you wouldn't do, but that's not what happened to her. Mm-hmm. So we're watching her journey, and this is what happened to Cassie. But just because you wouldn't do it doesn't mean that you all of a sudden can throw, oh, because she did this, like I wouldn't. Okay, but that's you. You chose to not do that. So you can't put that on Cassie now. That's not what happened to her. And to everybody that says just because she was 19, that's not grooming, y'all need to get y'all things straightened out, because grooming can happen at any age. Mm-hmm. Anybody can get it. Just like the last caller just said, masculine men, feminine women, anybody can get it. So please don't get it out of your head that just because she was over 18, that she cannot be groomed, please. And the other thing I wanted to say was, if people like try their best to like get their emotions from the situation and just see the due process, do what they need to do, I'm sure they would see what's going down. Like people that don't understand like how RICO even starts. Like I myself don't even understand it, but I do understand that there's always a process to doing these things. So you just have to let the process go. We're only this is about to be the 3rd week, right? So we're
about to be the 5th, but
oh shoot! Oh my God! You see, damn! Oh
did you hear our interview with Kirsten Brown, the prosecutor?
I did. No, that's what I'm gonna say. And shout out to you even bringing like the experts too, because I feel like people that don't know what it is to be in these situations don't understand. So they kind of have to hear from an expert. But the whole thing is you don't need to hear from. Not to say that experts you shouldn't hear, but what I'm trying to say is like, if a victim is telling you something happened, you gotta believe them. Like, just what it is. But unfortunately, we live in a world where I need proof. You need to show me proof. I need this proof. And I'm just like, come on now. You really need like.
And unfortunately, when you're in an abusive situation, the last thing you're thinking is about, I should be documenting this. I need to remember this. I need to remember that.
Right. Oh my God. I might be in a situation where I might need this piece of evidence. Nobody's thinking that. no one knows what it is to be manipulated. If you've never been in that kind of circle, I'm a kind of a psych person, so that's why like I'm seeing this stuff and I'm like, yeah, if you don't know what it feels to be in that, you're never going to understand what it is. Like, that's just what it is. So everybody just needs to just see the case for what it is. I really wish that we can like hear what's actually happening in there, but it is what it is. Like, yeah. But that's what I wanted to say. I'm so sorry. I don't want to take too much time.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you, Nelson, for calling in.
Bye.
All right. Guys, you're just joining us. Don't forget to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting not just my channel, but also if you're listening to us on the KEMPIRE podcast, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And don't forget the KEMPIRE After Dark live show is coming to Philly on July 10th, Atlanta on August 5th, DC on August 22nd, and then back here in New York City on September 12th. I know Chicago, I know Dallas, I know Houston, I know LA. Y'all want me. Y'all come and link me with some of those promoters. Please and thank you. And I will come. I'll come. All right. Let's get to these last couple of callers. Callers, please respect the timer so I can get through everyone so that we can round this out. Shout out to everyone in the live chat. We're almost at 1,000 likes. Miss Frazier, thank you for being a member. Miss Frazier says, I lived it and grateful that I got out. Sending you hugs and prayers. See, there are a lot of people. I mean, I think we need to start giving people grace because you are saying things probably in the public or to friends and family, not realizing that they've been in this situation and they are lucky to be here with you today to tell you that I've been through it, I made it through it, and you're saying insensitive things and not giving grace. Not Frank Black. All right, sir, we're not going to even get into your super chat, but keep on sending super chats. We'll just add it to, for every super chat y'all send that are ignorant, we'll just send it to the Happy Pride Month. We're raising money for Pride. So be sure to donate. Check out some of our last couple of videos. We're trying to raise $3,000 for the LGBT Center here in New York City, especially in this political climate. These organizations need your support. Help me raise $3,000 this month. We only have 20-something days left to June. And we haven't even got to 1,000 yet. What are we doing? If we as a community all chipped in a couple of dollars, we could do that like that. And we can get to my actual goal of 5,000. Okay. All right. Susie says we need you on the West Coast KEMPIRE. Me too. I would like to come. It's not that I don't want to come to see you guys. I do. All right. Naomi's backstage. We're going to bring Naomi up next. Naomi, what did you want to share?
Hey, KEMPIRE. How are you? Now I feel like I'm...
Go
ahead. Good. I was gonna say now I feel so nervous and like I'm sweating because I'm trying to make the 1 minute.
I didn't even start it yet. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just have 3 big points that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
I was gonna talk about the whole celeb culture as to why, when it comes to like the IG baddies outside of Cassie, because I feel like he caught her at such a young age. She didn't even get a chance to even be a woman in this world. But how misogyny is so big in that rap athlete world where they make it like these women have to do certain things and they have turned this whole having a baby by them into some type of pipeline. Like now every girl is doing it. But anyway, the 3 points that I was going to bring up with the Diddy trial was I feel like Diddy is trying to reach the jurors over the weekend right now because he knows they're home. They might see the headlines about how it's all lies, since I remember he was nodding at them, oh, they're lying. Since he can't talk to them directly, he'll speak through headlines.
They're not supposed to be reading the headlines, though, but yeah.
Yeah, I even feel like he's speaking with Powers That Be or whoever else through headlines, because he mentioned Ray J, and then Ray J is crashing out by that night. So it was like, did he send him? And I think Diddy went to Antigua when the feds was coming. So did he leave something there that Ray J need to go get, or is he activating Ray J to do something?
Okay.
I found that interesting.
Okay.
Also,
Naomi, I have to let you go, though. Your time is up.
Okay, I'll be back the next show.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Naomi. Have a good night. All right, let me get to these other callers, guys, because it is almost 11 p.m. here in New York City. We're talking about Diddy's team, his legal team, filing a motion for a mistrial. So we shall see on Monday what the judge has to say. The judge is probably like, leave me alone. I'm trying to Can you imagine him listening to all of this live and in person and seeing all of this? So I'm sure he's like, leave me alone, but this is what they do. I'm sure he's also used to it. Tia's backstage. We're going to bring Tia up next. Tia, what did you want to share?
Hey, so can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. I've been fighting my way to get on. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
So I used to work in the fashion industry. It is very easy when you are working in the fashion industry or in any industry where you don't have a typical HR situation to fall into these situations. I remember when Cassie first signed with Diddy, there were a lot of eyebrows raised when it was announced that she had a 10-album deal. The other issue with Cassie, and I've noticed with a lot of the women who Diddy ended up with, these are people who either were abused or came from situations where they witnessed abuse. With Cassie in particular, she witnessed an HR situation of abuse because she used to be an Abercrombie and Fitch model. I don't know if you've noticed that story at all.
Yeah, we actually we did a video on it.
Yeah, that video went down around the same time as Diddy.
Yep.
For similar behavior, but his behavior was with men. Not the same as Diddy, but he
Similar.
pled out. Very similar. And I've heard a lot of stories of other musicians around the world doing a lot of similar things as Diddy. And I would love to know who exactly is paying for these videos. That's what they need to focus on with these cases, not just these individual artists. Diddy needs to be under the jail, absolutely. But they need to go after the big fish that is paying for these videos.
Okay.
I recently heard of the lead singer from the group Rammstein. You ever heard of them? The German group? It's post-industrial rock. Anyways, I'm an old goth. I'm sorry. But he apparently has been posting. He has a porn site.
Okay, we can't use those type of language.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. But basically, he's been doing this and posting these videos for years.
Okay.
So I would like to know who's paying for these things because they still haven't come to a consensus on what's going on with all of these people, because that R. Kelly situation was much worse than what they have completely, it's much worse than what they've actually let on.
Okay. All right,
and they
Tia.
need to go into that. So,
all right, Tia. Thank you so much for calling in.
You got to root it all out.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
All
Tia.
right.
All right. Speaking of the former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO, that was brought up during when Diddy was trying to make bail. They argued the fact that he was released on bail. Why haven't they released Diddy? So I remember that we did a video talking about that. All right, let's bring up Ace. Ace will be our final caller of the night. Ace, what do you have to share in regards to this breaking Diddy story?
Hi, KEMPIRE.
Hey.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for being so protective over victims and their experience. I just kind of want to add on a little bit to what you said earlier about people being cognizant of what they're saying in public, because they never know who's experiencing something like this. It's important to remember that victims often feel a lot of shame, and a lot of the comments and things that people are making and judging them on, they often feel themselves. And so being so negative and saying these things, it actually just creates an unsafe environment for people to want to leave their situation and feel as though they have a safe space to go to with their friends or their family or people that they need to get the courage and the strength and sometimes safety to be able to leave their situation.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be careful with our words because it is just as impactful to the cycle of abuse as those who are actually impacting the victims. So thank you,
Thank you, Ace.
have a great night.
You too. Bye. That was a great way for us to end tonight's conversation about this Diddy trial. We're going to continue the conversation. As I said before, we're going to bring Kirsten back here on the show. If you missed our conversation with LA prosecutor Kirsten Brown and you want to understand what we're watching, the jury process, all of that, it was such a great conversation. I will be posting it in the description after this live. And I am going to bring on an expert in regards to abuse and things like that as well. But again, the internet is your friend. A lot of this information is easily accessible. And I'm sure there are plenty of amazing fellow content creators that are covering this from that perspective in regards to having an experience in psychology or psychiatry and talking about this. So stay tuned. We're going to highlight Dr. Courtney. Thank you so much for the super chat. Happy Pride to you as well. It is Pride Month. Despite y'all notice that these corporate organizations didn't really do anything this year. Is that the end with the DEI stuff too? Okay. Anyway, happy Pride over here. We're still raising money for the center. Help us reach our goal of $3,000 after the live. If you're part of the replay crew, it'll be along, I think, the right side of the video. But you can, for those that are here now, you can go to any of our last videos and you'll be able to donate. Thanks to everyone that sent in a super chat. Thank you to those of you that became new subscribers. Thank you to our King's Guards. Thank you to our channel members. Thank you to our subscribers. Thank you all for being here. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Saturday. I'm gonna go take a shower, wash the Diddy of it all off of me, and of course go to bed. You never know, I might go live later. Someone said that Kenya was live. I might have to go watch that video. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Be sure to check out the KEMPIRE podcast and the KEMPIRE After Dark tour coming to Philadelphia, Atlanta, DC, and New York City. All that ticket information is available in the description. If you love my skincare, go check out Buttah, 10% off with my link in the description. Thank you guys for being here. Not Espo's Rise Rainbow Edition. That's some magic. Go to bed. Bye, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to KEMPIRE here on the KEMPIRE Radio Network. As always, you can hear KEMPIRE on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. More information can be found on KEMPIREradio.com.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams 4-day super sale and get 40% off paints and stains June 6th through the 9th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.